So when I was at a stage of my life where I was suffering with a lot of migraines, I often wondered if they were hormone related. And certainly I could often see patterns where they would feel a lot worse, like approaching the time where I'd be getting my period. And sometimes when you're stuck in that cycle of chronic headaches and migraines, it's actually really hard to really pick it apart and differentiate what was causing what, because you're exhausted a lot of the time looking for these solutions. So thankfully I've been able to look back on that time now, just with a bit of knowledge as well. And so I'm going to let you know my three sort of main connections that I made between my hormones and my migraines. And if you're suffering with headaches or migraines, then hopefully this will mean something to you, and it'll be some things that you can resonate with. So the three ways that I see that hormones were really having a big effect on my headaches and migraines, and I use those words sort of interchangeably because I was suffering with both headaches and migraines at the time, is so the first thing that I really noticed and really kind of reflected on is the way that muscular tension actually caused the majority of my headaches. So once I was actually able to identify that my muscles were being tight and restricted, especially in my neck and shoulders, was causing a huge amount, if not all, of the headaches and the migraines that I was getting, then I could start to think about, okay, so how does the hormone system sort of interplay with that? And what often happens is when our estrogen levels are low, so around the time where we will have our period, for example, then we actually have increased muscular tension at that time. So muscular tightness and tension is common with low estrogen. And I didn't understand that for quite some time, but now I do, and it makes perfect sense, because I would often just get I'd get headaches through my whole cycle, but they would be worse and certainly feel more migraine-like at that time before I got my period. So once I was actually able to connect the fact that my headaches were caused by the muscular system and sort of tightness in muscles referring pain further up into my head, and causing all these crazy symptoms, then it was just a sort of another step further to realise that my hormones were actually impacting those muscles. So if those muscles had tightness and tension already, just that little bit of a kick over the edge of having lower estrogen levels is just enough to send those muscles into crazy amounts of pain and causing that referred headache. So that was the first way that I really recognised that that hormones were contributing to some degree to the headache. And certainly looking back and knowing that my headaches were muscular related in a lot of ways, then I can sort of see how the interplay between the hormones and that muscular system really works. And through my work as a massage therapist who treats a lot of headaches as well, I've been able to kind of identify similar patterns in my clients as well. And once I had that understanding, then I could go from there in terms of sorting out the muscular problems that I had, so that if when my estrogen levels were lower, they didn't have that kick to send my muscles into overdrive, and they actually had a bit of bandwidth to cope with those lower estrogen levels. And the second way that I eventually identified the way that hormones were affecting my migraines and headaches was that I wasn't very good at that time at really listening to the cues of my body. So usually around that time leading up to menstruation and during as well, then our body is often sending us cues that we need to rest more. So I'd often be a bit more tired around that time, but I would just sort of try and push through a bit more, and I wasn't very good at listening to my body and resting. And I think that once we can do that, then that can actually really help. So I see sort of headaches and migraines really as a way of the body screaming at us that there's a problem. And certainly a lot of those problems are often muscular, but there's also sort of stress levels as well, which contribute majorly to headaches and migraines. So once I actually become a bit less exhausted because I was getting less headaches, then I could really notice that I needed to have a better self-care plan in place for those times where my body just needed to rest a bit more. And practices such as yoga and certainly yoga nidra were really important to me at that time and made a really big difference, because what that allowed me to do was just to take half an hour to rest. And when I mean rest, I don't necessarily mean sort of have a lay down in bed, although that's great, also great to do it around that time as well, but actually some sort of active rest in a way that allows our nervous system to rest, not just sort of our bodies by laying down, but if we can actually take our nervous system into that deep rested state, which yoga and yoga nidra is amazing for, then that can really have an impact on the pain that we're experiencing. And it's during that time where, you know, we're feeling a bit tired in our cycle, we haven't got that get up and go that we might have at other phases in the cycle, that I found it really important to actually learn to listen to my body and adapt to what I was doing, so that I could then help break this chain of getting increased headaches around that time. And lastly, sort of during a lot of my theory practice as a massage therapist, I came to understand about how the trigeminal nerve, which is the nerve that feeds the head and the face area, has to run through quite a lot of structures on its path, as do all nerves. So, and those structures in the body include muscles, they include bones, you know, maybe ligaments, tendons, that kind of thing. And when there is increased tension in those muscles, then that can actually aggravate the nerve itself. And then I came to think about like water retention as well. So if there is some water retention within the body, which there usually is, the days leading up to when we're bleeding, then that can actually impact the path of the nerve. So if you imagine that the nerve passes through a particular muscle, at the back of the head here, for example, the back of the neck, then if that muscle has tension and tightness in it, then that's one restriction. But if we also have like the slightest amount of water retention, then that's another restriction on top of that, which can then impact the pain felt through that nerve. And the trigeminal nerve is often one of the causes of headaches and migraines, or, you know, if it's not the sole cause, then it certainly contributes. So that's another way that I sort of learned that hormones were related to my headaches and migraines. So overall, what I found was that these three things were really relevant in my pain. I don't feel that hormones were necessarily the cause of my headaches on their own, and I often find that with my clients as well, that, you know, they might come in and say, I'm getting these hormonal headaches, but when we actually work on the structures of you know, these muscles, and and actually decrease the tension in those, and just allow the body to not easily be tripped over into a headache or a migraine, then we're actually able to have a significant impact on what's classed as hormonal headaches and migraines as well. And that was the case for me, really. I think if I'd gone down the path of just writing these off as being hormonal, I probably would have felt quite helpless in terms of there wasn't anything that I could do about it. Whereas actually learning the way that the hormone system impacts the muscle system and, you know, our sort of energy levels as well, I feel that there lies a lot of work that we can do on ourselves to actually make improvements. So I do feel that there was a relationship between my headaches and my hormones, but I don't feel like that was the only thing that was going on. And if you're struggling with something like this, I certainly would not want you to feel disempowered by just feeling like, oh, it's just hormonal and, you know, there's not a lot I can do about it. So in the comments below, I'm going to leave a link to a really nice relaxation exercise that I've developed for headaches. It's free and you can get it and just keep it forever to listen to whenever you need to. It's a yoga nidra exercise and it includes some of the things that really helped me. So I wanted to share that with you. So if you just go to the description of the video or the comments, then you can see the link there and you can grab it and keep it.